My name is Rashné Jehangir. I'm an associate professor of higher ed in the College of Education and Human Development, and I'm the chair of the First Gen Institute. Today's April 1st, but we're not fooling around. It's not April Fool's Day to us. This is serious business. I want to just acknowledge that this has been a delayed spring break for us here at the University of Minnesota. I don't think there has ever been a spring break that has been as long anticipated and much needed as this one, in light of everything going around in the world and the immense labor that many of us have endured on campus this semester. So I really want to thank you for taking the time to be here today. We won't be able to see each other for this part of the conference, the webinar, the opening keynote, but we want to know you're there. So really appreciate it if you'd share your name and affiliation in the chat. And if you are first gen and you're comfortable sharing that, we would love to see that too, because I think it's really important to acknowledge the expertise that exists in this virtual room. At the end of the keynote, Tara Mollengraf will pop on to provide some instructions around the next steps of the conference and moving into the concurrent sessions. So please hang around for that. And the other piece I want to let you know is there will be a Jamboard that will be pasted into the chat. The Jamboard is a way to capture your thoughts and feedback throughout the day. And so you would be able to populate it through the various sessions that you're going through. And there will also be an evaluation that will be given to you at the end. So before we go much further, I want to thank CEHD Interim Dean Michael Rodriguez for his support and commitment to the First Gen Institute since its inception in 2018, and I invite him to officially welcome you. Dean Rodriguez.
All right, thank you so much, Rashné. Hope I'm coming across well. I am Michael Rodriguez, the Interim Dean of CEHD, and I'm so happy to be here today and welcome you all to this awesome First Gen Institute. And I'd like to start by just recalling that the University of Minnesota, with footprints in many areas across the state, is located on traditional, ancestral, and contemporary lands of Indigenous peoples. And the College of Education and Human Development sits on the homelands of Dakota people, lands that have a complex and multi-layered history. We acknowledge the relationships peoples of sovereign nations have with their homelands. Those relationships are rooted in deeply cultural history and spirituality, grounded in the wisdom that we are all related and that everything that Mother Earth has to offer, we are related to. We are interconnected. This interconnectedness brings a responsibility to care for one another and to care for the lands that provide us with so much. This interconnectedness creates space for belonging. This interconnectedness encourages us to be generous with each other. I am a civil rights baby. I was born in 1965 during the passage of the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, and at the time of the establishment of the first three TRIO programs, Upward Bound, Talent Search, and Student Support Services. Three programs that I am honored to say employed me as a graduate student at three different institutions. I'm also a fifth generation Minnesotan, but the first in my family to get a college degree. And now I sit here in the dean's seat. I am a first gen dean. And unfortunately, I forgot my first gen pin is in my office on campus. I promise to wear it next year when we're together. CEHD is committed to giving back, particularly to those that have cared for and relied on the land that we now occupy, to make our work accessible, relevant, and meaningful to a greater cause. We will focus our fundraising efforts over the next few years to concentrate on building our reservoir of student supports to provide access to students with the least access to resources. This year, through generous American Indian donors and alumni with family histories of attending Indian boarding schools in Minnesota, we have established our first endowed scholarship for American Indian students with a commitment to support students who start their collegiate careers at two-year tribal colleges throughout the region. But we all know it's not enough to bring students to campus. We have an obligation to support them to be successful. I've been thinking a lot about this, particularly now that I'm sitting in the dean's chair. And I think the time is near when we will need to turn the admissions process upside down. And instead of passively waiting for students to apply or doing our recruitment that we typically do in broad swaths across the state and the region, I think what we really need to do is have a conversation. We will need to identify what kinds of students do we need to educate and prepare to be the world's next generation of leaders. We will need to identify those students, and we will need to recruit them to come to the University of Minnesota. And then we need to be prepared to support them to reach those goals, to reach their goals. Instead of spending so much time and effort on college readiness, getting students ready for college, let's spend a little more time and effort getting colleges ready for students. Students that we need to lead the world for future generations. And those students are unquestionably first gen. So let's have a great experience in this First Gen Institute. I hope we all have a successful end to a challenging school year, especially in these times of uncertainties and deep frustrations. And let's be compassionate, generous, and good relatives. Let us respect and support all our relations. Adelante. Rashné.
Thank you, Dean Rodriguez. Thank you very much. Makes me proud to be part of this college. Before we go much further, I want to thank the amazing steering committee who have given their time, their emotional and intellectual labor, and their critical voices to design this half-day conference. As you can see, they represent folks from around the university, and they reinforce what Shirley Chisholm said, which is that you don't make progress by standing on the sidelines whimpering and complaining. You make progress by implementing ideas. And this is a group that has driven the design, the thinking, the willingness to situate a discussion around social class and poverty as central to our mission and work as the First Gen Institute.